we always wanted him to come back to the Mets. And it was just a question of coming up with the right deal that worked for both parties. And, so we went down to Tampa. I wanted him to know that we wanted him. I wanted to make it personal. And, it was a great meeting. I joke it was the only time I've ever seen Scott Boras never say anything. I looked over at him. I go, "Are you breathing? What's going on over there?"
John, I've got to say, Steve Cohen is very gracious with us. I think every season we've done this show, he's come on at least once, and we got an early season appearance this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great for the fans of the Mets, and he's been great for the media. Good job by you to get Steve on here. We've had him on, 3-4 times. He's been terrific every time, and obviously it's a good opportunity here with the Mets with the best record in baseball.
Best record in baseball, pitching doing great, Alonso, a late signing, doing great. I'm sure we're going to ask about the pitching, Alonso, Soto, that record, and more. Me and you will talk about the Devin Williams situation. We'll talk some Mets. We'll play hit and error at the end if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman. John, we had some local news this week, national news, right? The Yankees big enough team. Devin Williams is a big enough player. He really pitched about as poorly as you can for about a month of the season. The Yankees kind of had an obvious plan B. Luke Weaver was closing World Series games last year, so they moved in what felt obvious to try to diffuse some of the tension around him. I wonder what you think about what's going on with Devin Williams and the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be done. Luke Weaver has been great, 0 ERA. You can't do much better than that or any better than that, and he was great last year. He obviously is taken to New York. That's my concern about Devin Williams. Now, this move, it had to be made. You wrote it the other day, and I think everybody agreed there was no other way to do it at this point. You can't keep throwing him out there. He basically wasn't getting anybody out. This is a pitcher who had held opposing batters to batting averages between 0.90 and 180 5 years in a row, and they're hitting 343 against him. So, I mean, he clearly is not doing the job. He doesn't look happy in the role. He doesn't look happy in New York. You've got to reset and move him into low leverage situations. Now, Boone didn't say that, but that's clear. I mean, he's not going to be the setup guy now. I mean, there's no way, right? He's got to be in low leverage situations and work his way back up. He hopes to get back up. Boone kept talking about how he believes that he's going to get back up to be the closer. I don't know. The Yankees have a great closer. I don't know that they actually need him to be the closer, but they need him to be Devin Williams.
So I actually think if the Yankees were structured perfectly, which would mean Devin Williams was doing well, that Weaver being able to attack the top of the lineup between the 6th and the 8th inning and potentially give more than 3 outs when they get so little out of the back end of their rotation innings, that they would be better set up, obviously, if Devin Williams was doing this job. I'm going to invoke a name. I did it with Ryan Sampson on our Yankee webcast last week. Me and you were both beat guys. I remember when Xavier Hernandez came to the Yankees. Stick Michael, who I think we both have great admiration for, felt like he's setting up in Houston. This guy's stuff is great. He's going to close for us. And from the second that guy showed up, it seemed the last place he wanted to be was New York and as a Yankee. And that is the vibe that comes off of Devin Williams, which is this is not the place. Whatever the Yankees, the institution says. Aaron Boone over the weekend, I asked the beard question, and he said it was in the works. Yeah, but he's become, no pun intended, the face of it, right? Like he clearly didn't want to give up his beard. They talked about like we wouldn't want to lose a player because of it. You can't fight the institutions here. You will lose fighting the fans. Let's say they're wrong. Both of us thought the beard thing should go. Yeah. I agree with the move. But if you fight the fan base here, they're intractable. They're 100% winners. And I just think the first thing that has to happen for Devin Williams is almost the Trey Turner, Juan Soto thing. The fans almost need to cheer him back out on the mound and say, we want you to succeed here. And he needs to feel that. And he actually really has to believe that he wants to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. He does answer the questions. He's not hiding. Go up to him, he talks. He says the right thing. He says that he didn't deserve to be the closer, but it just doesn't feel, if you're in that clubhouse, he just doesn't look happy. I don't know if that's him and that's the way he is, but he looks fairly unhappy. If you look at the body language and all that, it doesn't look like he wants to be here. And, that I think to me is the concern no matter how the fans respond. And I think the fans were a little harsh to boo him on opening day, a guy who hadn't been booed for more than 5 years in Milwaukee. It could have been a little bit nicer. I give the Met fans credit, not to say one fan base is better than the other. They gave the cheer to Soto. That would be a nice thing to see. I'm not sure if it's going to change. If a person is the way they are, we'll see if he's, you hear the name Ed Whitson, other names that just were great pitchers elsewhere. Sonny Gray was a great pitcher
Javier
elsewhere.
Vasquez.
There are a lot of them. There's a ton. That it's difficult to pitch for the Yankees. It's not easy. And we'll see. Hopefully he'll get back on track. But right now, I just don't feel like he looks happy.
There's this great quirk to this, John, is the Yankees do unreal work turning guys who've never had success into top 5 relievers like Luke Weaver, like Tim Hill, like Clay Holmes, who's now starting with the Mets. They get this finished product in Devin Williams. To your point, the band was 090 to 180 batting average against for 5 years. Like this, there's no luck there, right? I mean, he was dominant. Yeah. Any team would have taken him, and it's not first month working out here. Let me ask a I don't think an outrageous question, but a offbeat question on this. I've thought about the Yankees do have Weaver. I think we now believe Tim Hill is good. Mark Leiter, Ian Hamilton. I think we both like Loizica is coming back. Cruz has been terrific. Do you think they could trade him?
Yeah, I don't see that happening at this moment. He has not looked good, so not everyone's going to have draw my conclusion and think that maybe it's New York. He's not getting guys out, right? 3.43, 11.25 ERA. So I think at this moment, I don't think it's possible. If he has a few good outings,
the pedigree you talk about, though, I just wonder if somebody thinks like Kenny Rogers, Javier Vasquez, all these guys you mentioned, like once they were out of here, it just went back to who they were.
It's the price. If you trade them for a dime on the dollar, you can do it. But they're not going to do that.
Well, they're not going to do it today. But like for a team that is worried about how much money they're spending, I wonder what happens between now and July 31st. For every team's going to be looking for a late inning guy. He's not a hard guy to believe that he would bounce back, including maybe in New York. Like if you told me he was the closer again by June 1st, July 1st, something like that, I wouldn't be shocked either. But it's just one of those.
Yeah, I'm going to be surprised. I think Weaver's going to be the guy. Yeah. Although Boone didn't really come out and say it when he was asked. He said, we'll see. And everyone still wrote that Weaver's now the closer.
Well, I think he said that because I got this feeling when I was there on Saturday before he announced it, that the one thing he doesn't want to give up is he doesn't want to say he's the closer and then feel like the biggest at-bats in the game are in the 7th inning and go and get Weaver.
He's the main
He's going to be the main guy getting the last 3 outs when the Yankees have a lead, but I don't think Boone wants to give up the thing.
That could be
flipping over, the Mets had some bullpen issues over the weekend and lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, who I think are getting better. I don't think that they could compete at the top of the division yet, but I think if you have a couple of bad days, you're going to have a couple of bad days with the Nationals. Diaz hasn't been great. Talk about your late inning closer. And A.J. Minter had been really good, and now he's going to be out for a while. Any concern about the Met bullpen?
My concern, I think their concern is, obviously their pitching has been great. The starters have been great, the relievers have been great, but the starters have not gone really deep in the game. So they've really relied on the bullpen. And I think the concern is, are these guys going to get tired? I don't know if we just saw it this weekend for the first time or this is a trend going forward. But to me, that is the concern about this team, that they've been overused. Now they have Nunez coming up, probably some point that will help. But obviously the loss of Minter is a big, big blow. I mean, the lefty, they had just signed Raley, as you first reported. That is a concern as well. So, I mean, their pitching has been better than anybody, but they're still very, very concerned about different aspects, and I get it. There's reason to be concerned.
You know what's interesting to me? It kind of goes back a little bit to Devin Williams. Is David Stern's history is to improve a bullpen as the year goes along. I bet you he's never had a bullpen as fully formed and excellent to begin a year as this one. But I'm with you. While their rotation is going round and round, it's getting 15 outs. It's getting 16 outs. There's a lot of outs every day, and they have spread it around. But I'm always blown away when you have 13 pitchers, and all of a sudden, I was at a game that went extra innings against the Phillies, and he did not want to use Kranick. And he had to bring Kranick into the game. He had run out of pitching. Right. I mean, it's late April, and you're running out of pitching because your starters this is 2025 baseball. Your starters could pitch great, and yet your bullpen is overexposed.
Right. I mean, they've done a great job signing guys and not, they obviously didn't go for Fried or Burns or any of the big guys. They did a great job signing guys for bargain, but, based on baseball prices, bargain prices. And, but you're not going to get guys who are like Wheeler or Webb or Cole in his heyday or Max Fried, who are going to go 7 innings or 8 innings on occasion. They have a former reliever who's done great. They've got other guys, Senga, who's got an injury history. McGill, who is really not a proven guy, great talent, but not proven. They don't have those kind of guys. That's the one advantage that the Phillies have. They have guys who go 7, 8 innings historically, and few other teams. There aren't a ton of these guys, and they are very, very expensive. So that's the one drawback to this strategy, but obviously it's been a great strategy for the team where they can spend a ton on offense and save on the pitching, but there is a drawback to it.
I mean, the other thing is it's crazy because it's what you want to do is they win or are in the game every day, and therefore they're using their best relief pitchers to try to, they're not doing a mop-up.
Fortunately, all the relievers are doing well. They're all doing well, right?
But
Granick has been good. Brazabon's had great moments. I mean, really, you can't name anybody in there who's really not done well.
Budo had a bit of a hiccup over the weekend, but had been pretty good.
Right.
No, they'd all been good, but there hasn't been a mop-up situation, where you're we're just using a guy and everyone else gets rest. They're in the game. Even the 2 games they lose this weekend, they're in control of the game, so they're using their best guys. John, we're going to have Steve Cohen. I know we're going to ask him a lot of questions about his team, but let me finish up with this one, just because it's the story. Nobody did better on the story than you during the offseason. They bring in Juan Soto. He is not gotten off to the start that he got off to with the Yankees. I think we both suspect he's Juan Soto. It's going to turn out okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's fitting great. He's improved defensively, I think. I don't think he's really the Gold Glove caliber that he was nominated last year, but he's improved.
Watching Aaron Judge in right field, that's what a Gold Glove right fielder looks like.
Aaron Judge is the best. He's doing other things. He is walking a lot. Obviously, he's not playing up to the $765 million contract, but he's handling it very, very well. He's been in New York. He thrived in New York. He thrives under pressure. This is not a Devin Williams situation. This is a guy who's now played, 1 or 2% of this 15-year contract. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. I mean, he's 26 years old. He's really heading into his prime here. We've seen this a number of times where guys get off to rough starts with a new team, with the Mets. But I think there's nothing to worry about. I mean, I was a little bit, writers are a bit much nicer now. There aren't that many articles that are critical. I was a little bit critical of him when he came out and said that he missed basically in other words, that he missed Aaron Judge, because I felt like, he's got Pete Alonso there. He's doing well. It's not the time to say it. He just got there, and he's handled it great. I mean, I was there, showed up the next day. I didn't happen to see him. Showed up the next day after that. He gave me a fist bump. I don't expect a fist bump. He doesn't have to do that. If he wants to yell at me, he can, but he's not like that. I mean, he's got, I think, the right personality for New York. I think he can really handle it. I am not worried about him one iota.
Yeah, better fist bump than fist in a different way. John, I do recall in his full season in San Diego in 23, this was kind of like the first half he had, and then he was like the best hitter in the sport for the last 2 months. But that San Diego team was a weird team. They had great players and somehow went 82 and 80. So, I mean, it is, I think what we saw last year was he was slump proof. He just, forget about slump proof. It felt like he didn't take bad swings, bad at bats. It was just so good from day one, lefty, righty, home, away, pressure, no pressure. And that built up the expectation because it was in New York on the other side of the bridge. So that is what's in our kind of instant memory. And I would still say when the season ends, the OPS will be over 900. The homer total will be over 30. Nobody will want to pitch to him in a big spot. And that's all still to come. And the Mets are 19-9 anyway without him.
Yeah, I don't discount this contract as having an effect on him. I mean, nobody else has signed a $765 million contract. And everybody looks at it as, why did they pay this much? I mean, Judge, who's the best player in the game, is making $360. It's obviously a lot of money. Not that Steve Cohen, who we'll have on, can't afford it, but it's out there. Everybody knows it. I don't discount the fact that this could be affecting him and limiting him at this point. I just don't believe with this guy, with his personality, that this is going to last. I think he will be Juan Soto, and fairly soon.
Well, the guy who signed him to the contract is going to be paying him for the next 15 years. That's Steve Cohen. He's going to join us next on the show. John and I always appreciate Steve Cohen has been with us multiple times on the show. He's joining us again. It's a month into the season. His team has the best record in the sport, 19-9 in year 5 of his ownership. That's not nothing. Steve, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Good. Happy to be here, Joel. Good to see you. Good to see you too, man.
Steve, I wonder if the place to start is with the 19-9. Your team did not get off well last year and kind of obviously saved its season as it went along. I wonder, we're a month into the season. We've completed 5 weekends. What do you think so far of what you're seeing from your group?
Well, listen, 19-9 is a lot better than 0-5 out of the gate where we were last year. But it's still early. We're not even out of April. And so it's really, we've gotten off to a good start. It's nice to see. The pitching's been really, really good. The starting pitching, we had a couple of hiccups over the weekend, but generally it's been pretty good. And so I'm hopeful, and we'll see. As you know, it's a long season.
You mentioned the hiccups. You had one yesterday. How do you deal with it day to day? Are you still upset about the loss with the 6-1 lead, or do you put it aside?
You got to put it aside. It's funny. The season started, and I think we lost the first 2 out of 3 games or something, and I was starting to get annoyed. And I said, I got to relax. We got a 159 games left, so I'm trying not to. I'm trying to look at the big picture, and you're going to have games like that during the season. You don't know when, so you just kind of roll with it a little bit.
Steve, I wonder if I could stay on that, because whether I'll use, potentially it was a caricature or reality, the idea when you came to the Mets, everybody's doing kind of quick research, and you're thought of as a guy maybe with quick to act, quick temper, things like that. How have you learned that it's a long season? It takes a long time to build a farm. So all these things that actually take patience in our sport. How have you been able to gravitate towards it?
Well, you're assuming that's not the way it was before.
Well, okay? I said it could be a caricature.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, the reality is, if you're on a trading desk during the day, you can be a little hot every once in a while. No different if you're a coach in a football game. But generally in my business, I'm pretty relaxed and methodical and patient. And, what I've learned is don't be impulsive. And when I am impulsive, it doesn't work for me. And so, you just gotta, you get a little more seasoned, and you realize, I believe we have good people working for us. And I believe in the process. And as long as the process is good, the results will follow.
Yesterday was one hiccup, but the pitching has been the best in baseball. What do you attribute that to? And it seems like both team strategies are working. The Yankees went and spent the big bucks for the big star pitcher, Fried, and he's been great. And you guys have gotten these, so-called lesser pitchers, still good pitchers, but have made them better over the last couple of years. Are you going to stick with that strategy? And what do you attribute the improved pitching to? Is it the pitching lab? Is it Jeremy Hefner, Mendy, Stearns? Who's doing this?
There's one guy. You just don't know who it is. No, listen, it's an organization, and there's a lot of inputs that go into trying to make our players better. And that was one of my things I always wanted, was our ability to improve players, because I think that gives you a competitive advantage. And we're doing that on the pitching side. And I'm excited by that. You can find interesting opportunities if you believe you can improve players. And so we're doing that well. And that's a strategy we're going to continue to deploy.
You mentioned some overarching things, and John mentioned the name David Stearns. I'm sure he brings a lot to the party, and you waited, again, patiently for him to come onto your radar where you could actually get him. Can you narrow it down to a thing or 2 items that you think he brings that are relatively unique to the Mets that are helping you right now?
I think he's process oriented and he sticks to his process. He doesn't deviate often, and I also think he brings a mix of analytics but also a good feel for the game. And so I think that's an important combination. You sometimes index too much one way or the other. I think it's a nice blend. Listen, he's thoughtful. He surrounds himself with great people. I mean, I do that in my hedge fund, right? If I surround myself with great people in my hedge fund, they make me look pretty good. And I think he does the same thing. And so people want to work for him. He's got a reputation of being really great to work for. And so, I would say there's a bunch of things that put all together, creates an environment that attracts the best and brightest.
Pete Alonso, he's been great so far. It felt like he wasn't going to be a Met. It felt also like you kind of saved him as a Met. It was almost personal to bring him back. Was it that meeting in Tampa? Was it, the Fan Fest where you got kind of a mixed reaction after having already signed Juan Soto? What was it? And obviously he's going to be a year older, but he's doing better. He doesn't have the qualifying offer. Is there a chance to bring him? We're assuming he's going to opt out. Do you feel like you'd like to keep him with the Mets too?
Well, as far as, trying to get him to come back to the Mets, we always wanted him to come back to the Mets. And it was just a question of coming up with the right deal that worked for both parties. And, so we went down to Tampa. I wanted him to know that we wanted him. I wanted to make it personal. And, it was a great meeting. I joke it was the only time I've ever seen Scott Boras never say anything. I looked over at him. I go, "Are you breathing? What's going on over there?" But I think it was a great meeting for, Pete and for David and me. And I'm glad it worked out. And he's gotten off to a fantastic start. He's a fan favorite. We're thrilled that, obviously he's on the team, and we know he can opt out at the end of the year, and we'll deal with it then. I just dealt with this 2 months ago. Okay, do I have to start dealing with this again? Let it kind of, play itself out. Obviously Pete's going to explore his market like he should, and I'm supportive of that, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, obviously, the big thing you did in the offseason was Juan Soto, the biggest contract in the history of the sport, Steve. It was funny. I bumped into an ex-Met over the weekend, and we were talking about Soto not getting off to, better than a meh start. And the guy reminded me, he goes, Mike Piazza got off to a bad start and got booed. And we wondered, would he re-sign with the Mets because he got off to a bad start? And then, of course, he turned into an historic Met. I wonder what you think. Do you think this is a blip? Do you think there's Soto's carrying the weight of the contract, the expectation at all? What do you think of the early results for Soto?
Yeah, listen, I think, if you ask him, he'd probably say it's not, not going as, what he hoped. That's not what his back of his baseball card would say. But saying that, there's a lot of subtle things that he does that I, really think matters. The way that he works a count, makes pitchers throw extra pitches, really matters. Then he gets on base and then, Pete can drive him in. And so Pete's seen better pitches. And so, it's very subtle how that works. And you just can't just look at it as, in a very narrow sense. And saying that, listen, I'm not worried about Juan. I mean, he is singularly focused on baseball. He's a pure hitter. And, let's have this discussion at the end of the year.
You've obviously spent a lot of money. Payroll is second in the sport. It's been either first or second the last few years, reportedly. And I do believe those reports. You've lost a lot of money personally. And again, we're over $300 million at this point. For the deadline, the team looks really good right now. At the deadline, though, is there room to operate? Are you going to look to add if you need to?
I leave that to the baseball people. Obviously, every dollar I spend costs me another dollar or $1.10. And so it's not cheap. Saying that, if we're competitive and we're in it, we'll see what's out there. And if we think there are pieces to add, I'm sure we will.
Steve, we've now asked you to do Alonso and the trade deadline. We got you moving way ahead. John mentioned your payroll. Obviously, your payroll, the Dodgers, what you've done, has some people wondering where we're heading with the CBA ending after next season. Do you have some concerns about this moving forward, about either you spent more on your team than other people spend on the team? It feels right that you should be able to spend what you want to make it as good as possible, but questions about competitive balance, etc. Do you have big picture concerns about if we're heading to a bad place in general, and also with maybe a lockout coming after next year?
As far as my spending, I'm operating under the CBA rules, and obviously the Dodgers are. I describe myself as a piker now compared to the Dodgers. Okay, but saying that, we're in 2025. The CBA agreement ends at the end of 2026. I'm getting up to speed on all this stuff. I'm not even focused on it. A lot can happen between now and then, so I'm not going to speculate.
As Joel mentioned, you have the best record in baseball. Was this your expectation going in? My understanding was your team was expecting to be better than it was last year. Last year, the expectations internally were higher than they were externally. Where were the expectations? And, do you have the best team in baseball?
I thought we'd have the second best record, not the best. But listen, anything can happen. Baseball's unpredictable. And I'm thrilled that we've gotten off to a great start. It's a team that really enjoys playing with each other, and so it's a nice indicator perhaps of where we're going. But there's so many possibilities. You can get injuries. You get all sorts of things. The vagaries of a baseball season, and so I like this team. I liked it, in spring training, and so I'm optimistic.
The history of this team is that it hasn't been able to sustain success, the franchise, moving forward. The best sustain was mid-'80s to late 80s, and that's when they won their last championship. And you've made it clear you'd like to build something where you feel like every year the team is in it. I wonder where in that arc you feel you are right now. Do you feel you're there, and this is now going to be the Mets moving forward? And if not, where do you feel like the elements still have to be filled in for you to be that?
I just want to be a record. I couldn't care less about the history.
Yeah.
Okay. It's irrelevant to me. It means nothing. Okay. And so this is, a new regime, a new management, new beliefs in how we operate. And I like the direction we're going. And, a lot of great people in this organization. We still have a ways to go to continue to build the infrastructure. It doesn't happen just in a couple of years. And so, but we're definitely making progress, and I think you're seeing it. And so I think it's a great combination of great talent. Obviously we have the ability to spend. And so, fans are a little bit, I describe it as they have PTSD. They've had, a tough road over a long period of time, but I don't have it, and I don't think that way, and I'm going to put the best product I can on the field.
You still have a day job. What's your day like? It felt like you were pretty involved with the Soto and Alonso situations in the winter. Is it busier in the winter now? Because it seems like you're leaving it all to the baseball people right now. Tell me how it works.
My generally managerial philosophy is hire the best people and let them do their thing. If I have questions, I tend to hold my people accountable. But if they've developed their credibility, you let them go and let them do their thing. And listen, it's never going to be 100%. We're going to make mistakes, but it takes a lot of pressure off of me knowing that David's there and the quality of the people he's hired. And so, listen, you're right. I've got a lot to do. If I showed you my schedule today, you'd be like, "Are you kidding?" Yeah. And so, but if you hire good people and you develop a good relationship, you can kind of offload some stuff onto them. And listen, I don't get that involved in the little decisions that happen on a daily basis on with a baseball team. I leave it to my baseball people. Then the free agent signings, if there's something that I deem important or something that I think, I need to get involved, I will.
That sounds like a Heyman schedule, by the way. His is loaded up also. Steve,
No.
you said something previously that I find interesting for its dichotomy a little bit. Is you say the history is irrelevant to you, because I assume because you're trying to make new history and you don't want to be held. But your fan base, you mentioned, does have some PTSD from what's gone on, especially over, say, the last 40 years. I wondered, are you looking at history as irrelevant because you just don't want that millstone around your neck and you want to kind of start from your start line and move forward and build new history?
I just look at it as like irrelevant to me because I wasn't managing this thing. And so, I can't be held responsible for the way things operated previously. The only thing that matters is I'm held responsible for what I do. Okay. And what my management does. And listen, I appreciate and understand, what the fans have gone through over a long period of time. But I will say, it's a different group and different philosophies. And I actually think behavior will change, and it's starting to already with the fans. And, it's a good step in the right direction.
I'm going to follow up a little bit on Pete because he came out and I think it was in the Players Tribune, said how much he loves New York and basically said, he wants to be a Met. All things being equal, I know you've spent a lot of money, and I know I like to spend other people's money, especially people who have more than me. You would like to keep him with the Mets, I assume, right?
Yeah, listen, he's a great Met. And I said this last year, if we can work it out, we'll work it out. But he's going to go explore his market, and that's his right. And it's hard to know how those things work out. I know we're happy with him. I believe he's happy to be a Met, and that's a good place to start. In any future discussions.
The cornerstone of when you took over as ownership is the acquisition of Francisco Lindor and the signing of him to a very long extension. It's going great. Lindor is one of the best players in the game. He's proving to be one of the best leaders in the game. I wonder the state of Lindor. What'd you think of it?
You gotta love it. He's in all parts of the game. He's terrific. He's great with the fans. Just a great personality. He cares about his teammates. He's a real leader. It's actually, what's there not to like? He's performed, in New York, which is always hard to do. And kudos to him.
I know your schedule is heavy. This is going to be my last question. A little bit of a follow-up there. You've done great stuff with the history of the Mets and rewarding and honoring great Mets. I'm wondering, I don't know if this is completely up to you. Maybe this is more of a clubhouse decision. How about Lindor? I'm sorry to put you on the spot here. How about Lindor as captain? He's captain of the Puerto Rico team. Maybe that's not so easy because you obviously have some other great veterans on the team.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to let baseball people decide that type of stuff. But the whole captain thing, I think, has been sort of a media-driven discussion. And the way I look at it is, let the locker room figure it out on its own. You have a lot of veterans in there, and it seems to be working the way it is. So. Why then go to another place that has its own risks? So listen, I'm always open to the discussion, but ultimately, there aren't that many captains in general in baseball. It's not something that happens very often. I think there may be two others in baseball now, so it's not like a thing. Okay, maybe it's a New York Yankee thing, and so I think it's a media-driven discussion that maybe, has gotten a little too loud.
Yeah, I'm actually with you. I think we kind of know, like, whether he has the designation or not, he's clearly the leader of the team. Him and Nimmo seem to, take on a great weight there. As my last question, I'm going to go off the beaten path a little bit. and John's going to hate it. I love the NBA. I mixed in Met and Yankee games yesterday while watching 4 NBA games, and I notice every time I watch a Knick game at Madison Square Garden, there's somebody sitting in the front row that I mistake. Like, and ain't Ben Stiller. I'm not interested in that one. I'm not interested in Tracy Morgan. I see Steve Cohen there. You bet. Are you a lifelong Knick fan, and kind of like, what do you feel about being able to kind of like go at this time of year and see these kind of games?
Listen, playoff basketball is, it is great, right? Just like playoff baseball. Yeah. I mean, it rises to another level. The Garden is electric. I mean, that place is the place to be if there's a basketball game or a hockey game in the playoffs, let alone during the season. And so, I share tickets with a friend of mine. And so I'm not at all the games. And frankly, I want to go to the game Tuesday, but I already committed to be in my suite at the baseball game. So Alex will be there in the seats. So she'll be representing the family. But, listen, it's playoff basketball. It's fun.
Yeah, it's playoff basketball, John. It's great.
Yeah.
You'll learn.
I'm a baseball, 100% baseball guy. It's not going to change.
If you went to a basketball game, you might feel different.
It gets a little high.
Steve, on the subject of electric fan bases, you would hope that people would come around this year, and your attendance is way up this season, and there's a real great buzz at your ballpark. It's because your team did great to end last year. It's done great to start this year, and we know how busy you are. John mentioned it, and we know you were shoehorning us into your schedule. We do appreciate you joining us on the show.
Anytime. Happy to do it. And let's go Mets.
Thanks, Steve. John and I, of course, thanks Steve Cohen for joining us on the show. John, hit or error?
I've given out a string of hits, and I've been too nice. I'm going to go error. I think there are some really bad managing going on in baseball and some really bad managers. I'm not going to name anyone, but I will say...
come on, please.
Well, I will say this. I'm not naming anyone, but I was at the game, Yankee game yesterday, and the starting pitcher was a good pitcher, Kevin Gausman, had walked 5 guys in the...
Threw like 55 pitches in an inning.
I think it was 53, but in that area... the bases are now loaded, of course, because he's walked 5 guys. He's staying in the game. I mean, at some point, you've got to take him out, right? If you walk 5 in an inning, you're on pace to walk. It's not even an inning. It's 2/3 of an inning. You're on pace to walk like 60 to 70 guys over the. You're not pitching well.
You're not naming anyone, though.
No, I mean, he blamed. He obviously wasn't happy with the umpire. He was squeezing, whatever reason. The umpire and he weren't jiving. I mean, you got to get him out of the game.
You think the manager was managing the doubleheader and thinking, if I get my ace out early, how am I going to get through the next 16 and 17, whatever?
This game was winnable, though. I mean, it was until the bases were cleared with an extra base hit, the game was winnable. You got to get him out of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to give an error also today, John. I'm going to give it to the Orioles, who I think play a very, very important series against the Yankees for late April over the next 3 days. We know it's a long season. Steve Cohen was our guest. The Mets looked dead in May last year. They had a terrible May, and they came back. The Orioles are 10-17. It's the second worst record in the American League. And it's just a reminder, windows don't actually stay open forever, especially for a smaller market team. And when you're when you have a moment, you have to seize the moment. And it was clear they were going to need starting pitching. Corbin Burns left for Arizona. They have this terrific young core of positional guys. And Sugano and Morton, I don't think on one-year contracts can be the answer. You've got to figure out a way to do it. And by the way, even the young core, I mean, Gunnar Henderson started late. I assume he's going to be a great player before it's in. But we're now up to, from midway through last season to now, what's going on with Rutschman. Jackson Holiday has not fully fired like the other Jacksons, Churio and Merrill. That window felt like, oh, if you're a Yankee fan, who do you really worry about for the next 5 years? That felt like the Orioles. If the Yankees could do some real damage, worse damage to them over the next 3 days, or let them begin to move back and maybe be this year's version of the Mets, the Orioles get an error for not seizing the moment for me.
Yeah, I'm going to defend them a little bit, and I just saw the stat. Their payroll actually went up a higher percentage than any of the other 29 teams. So that's pretty good for the Orioles. They have a new owner, Rubenstein, who I like very much.
But they needed to spend on pitching, not Tyler O'Neill.
Right. Now, they did offer Burns. They opened with a 4-year, $180 million. That was the opening offer. He obviously didn't want to go there. He wanted to be, and that's just bad luck. He wanted to be in Arizona somewhere.
Right.
At least spring training in Arizona, he got everything. He's now in Arizona, playing for Arizona. So I'm going to give him a pass on that. They tried. And they had, and I'll turn this into a little bit of a hit for the Yankees, because they were one of the two teams that had this spring from hell with Grayson Rodriguez and other pitchers going down. Yes. Even Eflin, who's kind of an Iron Man, he went down. Everybody going down. So a little bit of an excuse for them. And give the Yankees credit. They lost Cole, they lost Heel, and here they are in first place.
And Schmidt for the first 3 weeks of the season.
Now they obviously have a $300 million payroll. The Orioles payroll just went up the most. It's still not particularly high. It doesn't look good in Baltimore right now. They look pretty dead, and I'm surprised.
I'm surprised
because they have a lot of good young players, and I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's up with Rutschman.
He's got the torpedo bat too. It's not working. That torpedo bat was amazing for the first.
We're going to look back and say that he was picked before Bobby Witt.
Yeah.
Right?
I think some people thought that at the time. Yeah. Switch hitting catcher.
No, I got it. I thought he was going to be the cornerstone of. As great as Bobby Witt is, if Rutschman was the guy he'd been for the first 2.5 years, you'd say, okay, he's not Bobby Witt, but he's a switch hitting catcher, great on defense, good on both sides of the ball, power, etc. Kind of like Cal Raleigh has become him, right? That kind of guy.
He's the best catcher.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Raleigh's the best catcher. Yeah, I think there were a lot of people who felt that Bobby Witt was the better pick.
Yeah.
Look, the Orioles got Gunnar Henderson not at the very top of that first round, kind of like in a sandwichy type pick, right? Like
like 10 picks after the Yankees took Volpe.
That was a hell of a pick there, but and they've done good overall. But how do you pass up Bobby Witt? I don't know. I went and saw him play a perfect game, and he had like a 480-foot home run. Here he is. A little high school kid, and when I couldn't even believe when I met the guy. He's like 6 feet tall, which is not a big guy. He's not over muscled or anything like that. Hitting the ball 480 feet. This is an uber talent.
Yeah.
If
this doesn't
far
work out,
be it for me to say, but
no,
Bobby
if this doesn't work out, scout.
Hey, I don't think so.
If you notice, John and I are together in the studio. We have to thank everyone who helps us do that. Tommy Hogan, in particular, our producer, is so great at helping us get through everything. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. Really, reviews help. It draws people to us. If you like our show and you want to help us further, please do that. Rate and review us. The New York Post YouTube page. Give us a view. And please continue to stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and Jon Heyman.